Okay, yeah, I guess it's 10 o'clock. So can we call this meeting to order? Which would mean everybody's here who has to be here, I hope. Thank you. There's glare here. It's really annoying. The TNRD acknowledges that we connect with many First Nation communities across our vast regional district. And today we are located on the Tecumseh-Secwepemc territory situated within the unceded ancestral lands of the Secwepemc Nation. The TNRD truly appreciates the partnership that we have with the Tecumseh people and respect the territory and land on which we gather today. Any additions or deletions from the agenda? No? Motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Director Smith, seconded by Director Thorpe. Anybody against it? Marvelous, carried. Minutes. We've got minutes from April 19th. Any concerns with the minutes from anyone? Nope. Somebody want to move the minutes? Thank you. Moved by Director Laird, seconded by Director Hall. Anybody hate the minutes? Nope. Good. Thank you. Carried. Reports. Who are we going to for the reports? Would that be Jamie? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't have a presentation on this report. The information's contained in the written report. It's a fairly straightforward amendment that we're making. The reason the amendments to the policy is being made is the way the policy was written before was reflecting the bylaw enforcement being done contracted out. It specifically mentioned that we're contracting out the services, whereas we switched that to actually an in-house dog control officer and bylaw officer. And related to that, we're also amending the bylaw to do the same housekeeping language update. So that bylaw update will go to the July board meeting. So we were trying to coordinate the recommendation from this committee around the policy to coincide with the bylaw update for the same change.
Thank you. Any questions? Anyone? Director Laird.
How often do we actually have a problem with vicious dogs? Does that happen very often?
Yeah, I would say I don't have the latest numbers. We've probably received over 20 complaints so far this year, depending on the nature of the complaint. Most of those warranted an investigation. And we've actually had 2 serious incidences already this year.
Anyone else? Director Hall.
Okay, thank you. Just a matter of background. I noticed in one of our meetings at Kamloops, we had a vicious dog report, and I was surprised at the amount of dog attacks and the various types of dog attacks that were reported just within Kamloops alone. So when I read the agenda today, I thought, given the vast, geographic area of the TNRD, I could see something like this being warranted.
Thank you. Anyone else? We have a recommendation. Anyone want to move the recommendation? Director Thorpe?
I just have.
Who do I see? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you over
That's
there.
okay. I was late. There have been reports, and I know that in other jurisdictions, there have been concerns about dogs that have been on their own property and have attacked someone. Whether it's someone who was on the property, a family member or a friend who was there, or someone, delivering items or something. Does this address that if a dog is on its own home property?
Thanks. Through the chair, the bylaw does address that. This update doesn't change that, but the way it's dealt with in the bylaw, and that was specifically contemplated when our bylaw was created. So the way it's arranged is a dog attack impacting, injuring a person, doesn't matter where it occurs. A dog on dog attack or other animal, if it's on their own where the dog resides, then it can't be enforced. So for example, a friendly off-leash dog runs onto a private property where that other dog lives, and there's an incident there, that one we can't pursue. But if a child or a person walks and knocks on the door and gets attacked, we can still enforce that.
Anyone else? Director Thorpe's moved the motion, recommendation. Anyone seconding? Director Hall, thank you. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Moving on to repealing the Community Assistance Fund. Is that you also, Jamie? Oh, Deanna.
I can speak to it or if Jamie wants to, but in short, this policy or the intent of this policy is not compliant with the legislation. This policy was brought in during the previous administration. And we've in our review, our ongoing review of all of our policies have identified that it's not compliant, and we did confirm with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs that it's not compliant. So we're asking the Policy and Governance Committee to recommend that the board repeal and remove this policy.
Any questions? Jamie?
And I'll just add to that, it's the issues created around this policy is the subject of a report going to the board this afternoon related to the Loon Lake Fire Department, where this policy was used in the planning budgetary purposes for that hall. And so now the report going to the board is looking for alternative funds to make up for the shortfall of not being able to utilize this policy.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Someone want to move the recommendation?
Move the recommendation.
Director Smith, seconded by Director Morris. Anyone opposed? Carried. Moving on to Code of Conduct.
Thank you, Chair Bass. We also have our Deputy Corporate Officer here as well. If there's specific questions about this, but so the updated policy looks quite different from the original Code of Conduct policy that the board had in place. We took a number of the recommendations and some input and direction from the board at the March meeting and incorporated it into a policy. As suggested by the board, we use the City of Salmon Arms new Code of Conduct policy as sort of our template to work from, and then tried to implement some of our own TNRD Board of Director changes into it. So we're welcome. We welcome any input or feedback or any other suggested changes that the committee would like to see before we bring it to the board.
Thank you. Anybody have anything they want to say? Go away. Director Laird.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As far as signing the new policy, are we going, is each director going to do that after this has been adopted?
Exactly, yes. So we'll have the forms. So what we intend to do is once the board approves the policy, we'd like to give every board member a copy of the policy. And then the attachment that we have, the attestation at the end, we'll have all of the directors sign that and submit them to me, and I'll file those away.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I have a question with due respect to the chair and the vice chair. What happens should a complaint be lodged against both the chair and the vice chair? Who would handle it then? Because the language in here doesn't allow for that. And there was a time I would never think that way, but after today, I think very strangely.
I may turn this over to our deputy corporate officer, but I thought that it identified somewhere in there that it would be the CAO if it was the chair and the vice chair,
I maybe missed that then.
but I could be. And if not, then we can amend the language to include if it's against the chair and the vice chair collectively, then it would go to the CAO.
Okay, that's fine, as long as it's fine. You know, I may have missed it, sorry. Yep, okay. So we have a recommendation on the floor. Someone want to move it? Moved by Director Thorpe, seconder, Director Roden. Any opposed? Perfect, carried. Any new business from anyone? Wow, short meeting. I like short meetings. I run tight meetings. When I can. Okay, I motion to adjourn. Moved by Director Morris. Thank you.
Board meeting.